All right, now we're going to pick up again with AngelAnn Flores and Xavier Mountain. They're both candidates for Stockton Unified School District Area 2. So this is good. We get time with both of you now. So what we're going to do, I'll just give a quick review. We're going to go with opening statements. And then after that, we will go with a sort of a modified discussion where each of you will have 90 seconds to answer a question, 45 to go through rebuttal. I have these handy dandy cards here, no expense spared, to prompt you. You have 30 seconds left, 15, and then to let you know when your time is up. All right. Since Mr. Mountain was here first, I'm just going to start with him. Again, you get to go again for your 2-minute opening statement, so please go.
Here we go. I'm going to just stick to this, my bio. I'm a proud product of Stockton, the son of an immigrant father and an African mother. The struggle of survival is not foreign to me. I'm a living testament of that anything is possible. Grandma in the foster care system and moving between houses and schools resulting in trauma and shame for not having a home or a family. I know firsthand the importance of having a stable, safe, healthy environment for kids to thrive, because that's something I wanted the most. Today I serve our community as a Stockton Planning Commissioner, clinical therapist, and a father. I hold a bachelor's degree from the University of the Pacific, our very own UOP, and a master's degree from the University of Southern California, USC. I fought to get to where I'm at today, to become the voice for the youth who do not have one. With your help and my experience, we can give the youth the vision to see value in being educated. My campaign is grassrooted and funded by me and good-hearted people. It's time to put the focus back on our kids and ensure that they are safe and able to learn. No more distractions.
And Ms. Flores.
Hi, I'm AngelAnn Flores. I'm currently your board of trustee. I am born and raised from my community. I am a former teacher with the San Joaquin County Office of Ed, working with at-risk youth, and also a former after-school facilitator running the after-school program for Stockton Unified School District. I have been involved in Stockton Unified since I can remember. I am a mother of 4, a grandmother of 4, and I have seen firsthand, as well as the community has seen firsthand, how the last couple of years being on this board, my colleagues on the board have allowed illegal contracts, have had allowed illegal spending, to the point of every time I called them out, I have been the true champion and the fighter of our school board and our district when it comes to protecting our students' equitable education. I understand what our community has. I'm working in juvenile hall. I understand the foster care system and the foster youth that my colleague here, Xavier, mentions. I've seen it firsthand working in juvenile hall in the classrooms. I know how important it is to keep the distractions off of politics and not on students, because for the past 2 years that's what it's been. And I'm a fighter. I am born and raised here, and I'm not your typical politician. I am just your mom and grandma who got mad at the way that our schools were not being treated and being neglected. And so since day one, I am the one who sounded the alarm for the civil grand jury, and I'm the one who called for the fiscal audit, demanding transparency and accountability. And we don't have time for people to come on the board and learn. We need somebody who's going to be ready to work with experience on day one. Thank you.
Okay. All right. All right, Ms. Flores, what are your 3 best assets to be a trustee?
So my first asset is I'm currently on the board right now, so I know exactly what we've been facing. I know our hurdles and I know our trials firsthand. I know exactly what we need to do on day one. Second is I'm experienced. I know what the teachers need, so I've been in the classroom, I've taught students in an at-risk environment. I've run an after-school program, so if you've run an after-school program, then you would know that serving in that position, you are all positions in one after-school. You are the principal, security, counselor, teacher, tutor, all of that. And 3 is I'm born and raised in my community. I know exactly what our students are facing. We live in a society right now where our district is the lowest. We have, actually, I should say, the highest social, economic poverty in our community, and we are the highest in single female-headed households living in poverty in our community. Being a single female-headed household mom of myself, I know exactly firsthand what it takes to run and what we need for our kids today.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Mountain, same question. Your 3 best assets to be a trustee.
Thank you. By the way. Well, right now, currently as a city planning commissioner, we make a lot of big decisions that affect our city. The design of our city, permits when it comes to alcohol and cannabis, and these big decisions. And I think when it comes to those decisions, those are decisions that affect not just the families, but the youth. We don't have that experience, and transferring that experience and making these tough decisions to a school board that has a lot of other tough decisions. I think that parallel makes it quite a more smoother transition for me. I think the next one is being my mental health background as a mental health therapist, as well as experience as a behavioral health therapist. Then that helps me dive into the reality of what's going on with our children, the trauma. I think we need somebody that has that background, that understands that. And I think that I know the very last thing is, again, the assets of being representative of my community, like I said earlier in my bio.
Okay. All right, stay with you, Mr. Mountain. What have, from your viewpoint, what have been the hindrances in improving the quality of education in Stockton?
Well, I think safety and security. How do you push to educate a community like SUSD when a lot of the children are dealing with trauma, fears? I know for a fact that's the case, especially after what recently just happened to I don't want to speak on that, but I think we all know that. It's just the family, it's just a loss of children there in schools.
You're referring to the incident at Stat, right?
I think that's what we need to get them first. And then once we give them that feels security, then they'll have a good environment to learn. And then we can build that interest. So safety and security.
Okay. Ms. Flores, I want to ask you the same question. What are the hindrances to improving the quality of education in Stockton?
Sitting in the seat right now and seeing it from, again, firsthand, the hindrance today is my colleagues on the board. We are the ones who make the decisions, and right now our decisions haven't been in the best interest of our students, which leaks down into safety and security, because we're not putting our safety and security of our students at first hand. I believe that it starts at the top. It starts with the leadership, and as sitting in our seat, we're the ones who make the decision on who improves and who works in those positions in our district. And if we're not going to place qualified staff who understand security and safety, all the ins and outs, and we're just going to place our friends in those positions because we're guaranteeing them a compensation or a job position later on, that is hindering the safety of our student. And with all due respect to what happened to Lala at Stag, may she rest, it was an incident that didn't have to occur because it was our leadership that removed a position that was already in the process of ensuring that all of our school sites were safe. And so I'm one that will call out my colleagues on the board for not protecting our kids in the first place, because at the end of the day, we are the decision makers.
Okay, I'll stay with you for a minute because you mentioned some of the decisions there. You're part of that board. So being part of that board, what's your culpability in the quality of education and safety and all these things that are going on right now in SUSD?
Well, I've been told I'm only one vote, and that when my opinion and comments are being made, that they don't really matter because I'm in the minority. However, what I have done and been able to do is organize the awareness of the decisions that have been made, and bringing community and people to the table to voice their concerns, and letting them know that the decisions that we are making as a whole is not benefiting our students. It is actually harming them, and I'm not afraid to call them out on that, and that's what's been the problem, and why they claim that it's politics over safety of our kids. However, you can check my votes, and I've always voted to keep our safety positions intact, and making sure that they're qualified in those positions to do so.
Okay. Mr. Mountain, you care to pick up on that 45-second rebuttal?
Yeah, like you said, yeah, Trustee AngelAnn Flores has been on the board, and that's what's occurring, is still occurring. This concerns of safety and security. Though there is a vote being done, and though you're correct, one vote is, I've heard, it's the fact that we need this new form of leadership that understands how the system works, that can have that buy-in. Now, it takes a sense of teamwork. It's not one person. It's not just being able to bring in the community, because your voice is mute if you're not getting anything passed. And that's the one thing she has difficulty currently right now, is getting things passed. So we need to be able to bring somebody on that can convey that and make those connections.
All right, I want to stay with you then. So why do you think that you coming into this new would be able to forge the relationships to get consensus, to get the collective board to move in a different direction in some manners?
Well, I think the one thing is a voice of reason, and having a background again, being a therapist, you have clients that are really tough, and it's really hard to help them see that side of them. But sometimes helping them see that side of them is just working through it with them. And I think even when it comes to the board, they're still humans, they're still people, and people given the right reasons and that purpose and that sense of yes, that connection, then absolutely. Yelling and screaming at each other just creates emotions and it hurts. And it shouldn't be that way, unfortunately, but that's a reality. People have feelings. And when you convey that feeling of anger and frustration, well, from my experience, they project it right back. And so being able to have that sense of calmness and that understanding, and again, being on a city planning commission, it gives me that ability.
Okay. Well, I'm going to follow up with you real quick. Isn't there a difference between a client who comes to see you versus a school board member, where you would think the client has some level of motivation to change versus a school board member who, if they're entrenched in a certain position, does not?
Well, being a business owner, just like is very similar to that, but it's saying is, where can we find a common ground? You know, you have a disagreement, you have a disagreement, but where is that point of issue that we both can agree on, or we can both disagree? And the ability that I have is understanding that is, okay, we may have two different opinions, but where do they merge? And where's that common ground where we can have a compromise? Because if you, in business, if you don't know how to negotiate, well, then you're gonna have a failed business. But you know how to negotiate, well, that's it. Success from there.
Okay. Ms. Flores, I want to switch topics a little bit. Would you tell me a little bit more, or tell us a little bit more about the bond measure that's on the ballot? How that money is planned to be used, and perhaps how it should be used?
Definitely. I will be transparent on that. That is not a vote that I supported at this time. And it's because it's going to affect our taxpayers. And it's supposed to be used for facilities use, for our buildings. However, due to the illegal contracts from my colleagues and former cabinet members, I don't trust that the money is going to go where it should be going. We still have millions of dollars who have been given to allies and friends of my colleagues on the board that we have no account of. And it's easy to say, to speak with the voice of reason with your colleagues on the board if you already have a prior friendship with them or, friendship with them. But when I'm on the board, it's all about students first and district business first. I'm not there to be your friend, and I'm not there to make favors into that response. And so I refuse to put that burden and add another tax on the constituents in my area when I cannot honestly tell you that the funds are going where they should be going, and we haven't even got a valid, honest budget when we know that there is still money missing that has not been brought up to public transparency.
Okay, thank you. Blake, go ahead.
Mr. Mountain, I got something for you here. As AngelAnn has alluded to, the board has some issues with financial transparency right now. And a lot of those decisions are being made by a supermajority on the board. You mentioned your campaign is grassroots and you fund it yourself, but I haven't seen any 460 campaign finance documents. Are we supposed to take your word for it, or do you have any proof of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll be filing them before the deadline.
Okay.
All right, we'll follow up with that question. And so, how much have you spent on your campaign thus far?
About a little over $5,000.
Okay.
Yeah, so not much, but good thing I have a lot of my own personal background in technology and all that stuff, so I just kind of can do it myself.
You just told us that you're counterfeiting, did you? Bitcoin?
Oh,
It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Bitcoin's been falling down. I hope you're not investing in Bitcoin. Or NFTs. You're going to bring in NFTs too?
Do.
God.
How much have you spent on your campaign, Ms. Flores?
I've spent about $30-something thousand on it so far.
Who are your primary funders?
Everybody, business, community, organizational partnerships that I've been a part of, other school board members throughout the state. Everybody's mad. Everybody's really upset about the district. And I've proven my leadership, I've proven my dedication, and I've proven my commitment to SUSD to making sure that we're going to be transparent and accountable. And those business folks, those parents, those moms, those teachers, those classified staff, they see that and they're upset. And that's why I've earned all of their endorsements.
Since we're just touched on money a bit with the bond measure and campaign funding, Ms. Flores, how has the COVID money been spent by the district?
That's a good question. Your guess is just as good as mine. I mean, I ask questions, and if you I'm sure most of everybody's been paying attention, we just don't get valid budget presentations, and it's always being given back. But we've received millions, I want to say close to $70 to $80 million of ESSER funds, and half of that's already been spent on job positions, which should not have been paid for. And they've been to contracts that were not even valid and shouldn't have been a priority. And so there's a lot of misspent on the ESSER funding that we will probably have to pay back eventually.
Mr. Mountain, you want to follow up on that at all, about COVID funding in the district?
We just need cleaning it up.
Okay. All right, then let's put money aside for a minute and talk about school superintendents. And I guess we could talk about school superintendents and superintendent and superintendent and superintendent and superintendent and superintendent.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start with you, Mr. Mountain.
yeah, go for it.
What can be done to stop the revolving door of school superintendents at Stockton Unified?
We can start by just keeping them. Honestly, that's one of those questions when it just comes down to the report you put on the board. It's conveying that again, why they need to stay. And if it's not the trustees making that decision, they're just leaving, well then giving them an environment, giving them a reason to stay, you know? They're superintendents for a reason. They can go, they have that ability to move up the ladder to get to that point. And so they have that ability to parallel that somewhere else too. So letting them know this is home and making them feel that sense of home.
Ms. Flores, I'm gonna ask you that same question. What can be done to stop this revolving door of superintendents?
You can elect honest, ethical, student-centered, focused board members, because we are the ones who make that decision. We can either support a superintendent or pressure them to resign, which is either, I've had 5 superintendents, I think, Daisy, Brian, Ramirez, Baird, and now Tracy Miller. 5 board members in less than 4 years. And again, I get front row view. That is on our board. We had a superintendent that would not do what the majority of the board wanted them to do. They would not co-sign on any illegal actions, so he was forced out. They brought in Brian. He thought he can do it. Again, they forced him out because he wouldn't do the illegal actions that he was being pressured to do. We brought in Francine Baird. After that, again, the pressure was too much. Now we have, we brought in Ramirez, and we've seen what happened under that leadership because he was approved by the majority of the board. He was their friend, and as long as he did what he had to do, then eventually, you know, he got to stay. Maybe the pressure got too much for him. I can't reveal any more than that, and so he had to take care of, conveniently, his parents. But we already know how that goes. So at the end of the day, our role is to elect a superintendent, oversee policy, and make sure that the budget is transparent, accountable, and legit, so that we can support a good superintendent.
Well, I can't let this go. You already used it several times. You used the term the board forcing the superintendent or asking him to do illegal actions.
Mm-hmm.
What type of illegal actions, and can you prove that?
Well, the civil grand jury has done a whole investigation on it, and it is a 31 or 32-page report that we have contracts that have been given out with no services rendered. We have a contract where we have filters sitting in a warehouse that were not suitable to put in our school districts and our school sites, and we still have money missing from our budget. The employee morale went from really good to really bad. We have a teacher shortage. We have a disarray in our transportation department. We are in really bad shape under that superintendent's leadership, who was supported by majority of the board until he no longer can give them what they wanted.
Right. Mr. Mountain, what did you think of that grand jury report? Have you had a chance to read it?
Yeah, I did. Well, Miss AngelAnn Flores has been a part of this trustee committee under several, I guess, generations. And there was a generation where she had, the majority of the board was some of, as she said, some companions. And it seemed like there were still some things going on there. And now that there's no companions, there still seems like there's still stuff going on. So there's a bit of a discrepancy in the fact that it's being put on the current board I think when it comes to leadership, it's a unity, and to continuously blame that guy, it's just a leadership thing. And so when we bring it back to grand jury, I think grand jury essentially is just saying, it's like, hey man, let's clean this up. And I don't think they're wrong for saying, let's clean this up. It's important information that we need. But again, it's up to having those individuals on the board that says, hey, let's do something about this. You know, I look forward to being a part of that.
Because Mr. Mountain mentioned you, I'm gonna give you 45 seconds to respond.
Yeah, so under my watch with companionship, we were able to launch 2 resolutions under the first 2 years. One was that we were able to hire 75 mental health clinicians. We had a great employee morale. Our spending was on students. It was not on contracts with our friends. It was not cushiony jobs. We had people of color in positions, so we had black women, black men, Mexican women, Mexican men in positions that represented our student population, and we had a good community relations with our city and our county nationwide, where we were being recognized for a lot of the good work that we were doing under that leadership.
Can you just clarify the time period there for me?
Yeah, so from 2018 to just before COVID hit, we were able to make really positive strides. I even I sponsored my own resolution, which was requiring me to hire a restorative justice coordinator so that each school site can have their own restorative justice program called Building Space, Redesigning Justice. So everything that we did was student-centered, and it was not spent on frivolous contracts.
Okay. Mr. Mountain, a question for you. What effect do you think the image of Stockton Unified has had on Stockton's economy? I'm talking to people, some of them say that because SUSD, which is the largest school district here, it's had an effect on business attraction, retention, recruitment.
Well, we can't put that, we can, again, the majority of the district is their youth. And so, you know, there's that, but if you're talking about recruitment, can I ask for elaboration? Recruitment at what?
Sure. Just in talking to some of the business leaders here and others, one of the things that have come up is that potential businesses look at Stockton and they go, wow, the largest school district there is having all these problems. I'm not going to move my company to that area or try to build that because of Stockton Unified.
Yeah.
So my question to you in part is, do you hear about that? Do you care about that? What can be done to change that?
Well, I remember under a different, again, leadership.
And if you disagree with that, that's fine. If you disagree with that, then tell me your perception of it all.
Again, like I said, under different leadership, I've just seen different things. And so I don't think it's one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, it comes down to leadership. And I think under the right leadership, we can get that buy-in. And if you don't mind me bringing that up,
No, go ahead.
And again, my business is, I'm more of on the technology side, the wellness technology side is, there's this thing called it, you know, MVP or a prototype app or prototype technology, and they're called VC, venture capitalists. And essentially, that's what these businesses were saying, hey, you know, invest in our company. But Stockton is not a company, and I think if you want to say incorporated, but it's like SUSD is not meant to be something that's sold. It's supposed to be something like more 501c3. So having that ability to be able to know that background and saying, hey, this is the vision we have, this is the buy-in you have, it's be able to find that compromise, like I said earlier, and about fine line that says, we can help each other. And again, that beautiful compromise and that sense of leadership says this is why, and if it comes down to it, and they say no, well then they get F off, and guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna build our youth up so they can become the new business. They become the new leaders, and then boom, then we got our own.
All right, Ms. Flores, I'm not gonna ask you that question, I'm gonna ask you a different question, because we've been about 40 minutes, 45 minutes in. I'll ask you a different question. Seeing the board dynamics and what the board has and hasn't done, and listening to you, if I was the SUSD voter in your district, why should I vote for you? What is it about you going bad which would make me think that any of this would change? That you just would be another voice just spinning your wheels as you have been doing? Why would I think anything would be different?
I'm a winner. I'm a fighter, and I'm committed. I ran for my seat 3 elections before I won. I am born and raised. I am rooted in my community. I am not going anywhere. I have not sold out. My person here, Mr. Xavier, is allied with the same people who sat me down and said, we can help you win and we can give you whatever you want as long as you do what we want. I have not sold out, which is why I have been the one under attack. I have proven my leadership that if it wasn't for me sounding the alarm, a lot of people would not know or be aware of what has been going on. And I'm the one who sounded that alarm for community to be involved and to be aware. I'm here for the right reasons, for the students. I'm not here because it's not about me. It's about our students, it's about our teachers, and it's about our community. I have been dedicated since day one. I've been honest, I've been transparent, and I've been accountable.
Who are you referring to that you're saying he's allied with?
Mr. Xavier Mountain?
No, you have to, I'm sorry, this is moderated, so we
Okay.
ask questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few. He's related, he's aligned with 209 Times, as he's endorsed with 209 Times, which means that our director of facilities, our director of Family Resource Center, who has been paid his position to defame me, those are his friends. They've endorsed him. He is friends with the, you see social media wise, our colleagues who have approved the correct contracts and who have been a part of the disarray of our district. He is allied with them, which is, it's been public everywhere, and they're all supporting him.
Mr. Mountain?
Well, she has a right to feel the way she feels. I think, again, here's another example of her leadership. It's not taking accountability for her own actions during her term. It's putting that blame onto others, where we have to, and I think the beautiful quality of leader is saying, what can we do better? And, but if you want me to speak on the 209 Times, I don't recall having an endorsement by them, so that's news to me. I think I think we all know that they publicize what they want at this point. Again, they're just another, media that publicize what they feel is necessary that helps the community. So if somehow you see my name, I think we also see a lot of other names, and I don't think we can assume that everyone's endorsed that's being publicized. And for the record, just because you're writing about them doesn't mean it's an endorsement. I also see that my other endorsement, well, thank you for bringing that up, so it allows me to say that I am endorsed by the mayor of Stockton. I am endorsed by Christina Fugazi. I am endorsed by newly elect Brando Villaputa, and also our city legend, Dorothy of the Cinder, our Stockton legend, and more importantly, John Burton. He's a senator and state of California previous chair.
Okay. All right, well, this has been interesting. Thank you both for your time, and we're gonna go now to 2-minute closing statements, and we'll start with Ms. Flores.
I'm AngelAnn Flores, and I'm running for Stockton Unified School District Board of Trustee for Area 2 because our students and families deserve better. In the last 2 years, you've seen firsthand how our district has mismanaged funds, striking contracts that have left our bank accounts with a $30 million deficit, leaving our students and teachers and taxpayers left behind holding the bag. As your trustee, I have used every tool at my disposal, calling for fiscal audits and sounding the alarm that has caused the civil grand jury investigations. I made and kept my promise to you when I knocked on your doors in 2018 to hold our district accountable and transparent at all levels. I'm proud to have worked and planned alongside many stakeholders, including our local school district law enforcement agencies, to ensure security measures at all of our school sites. I am a mother and a proud grandmother, and just like how I fought for my family for many years, I will continue to fight for your family and your students for many years as you will allow me to be on the board, and I hope to humbly earn your vote through proven leadership. Thank you.
Mr. Mountain, 2-minute closing statement.
Of course. As an educator, father, youth advocate, son of a Mexican immigrant, and son of a struggling mother, and also a previous foster youth, I look forward to being able to bring our schools the diversity, the representation, and the experience that they deserve, especially as a city planning commissioner. In my background, I've passed policies on a state level, several, that's changed lives for millions of foster youth and at-risk youth. And I think those are the biggest things, is something that lives past me. And I think that's the beauty in having my leadership, is that I set goals that will surpass my term. And that's why I look forward to planting that tree with our community and building our youth up. And that was what a vote for me would do. We'll give our community the safety and security, the representation that they deserve.
Well, I'd like to thank you both for your time and for the conversation. It was quite interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.